There you go. Okay, so now we're recording. This is always our favorite session because we're blown away by the lessons that you all have produced. And I know a number of you have been with us for other classes and have done lessons also. Uh, so you know it's really fun to share, and it's really fun to hear the lessons that everybody else is doing. So
You know, Mitch,
something.
the reason I love it so much is because the brilliance is really what is that Angela Meyer that says the smartest person in the room is the room.
Yep, yep.
And everybody here is so brilliant and it's so nice to like I learn so much and think, oh, I've never thought about that, or oh, I've never huh. So anyway, I encourage you to share just because so many of us get so much benefit out of it.
Mhm.
So much.
And so, with that, who would like to? Redora would like to grind read. Okay, yeah, it really would make teaching easier. So with that,
Amen.
who who would like to lead us off?
Mitch, I wouldn't mind starting off if that's okay.
Okay, that's Jane.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
Jane.
so so now I have to find you on this long. Oh, there you are. Okay, so I'll make you co-host. Now, do you want to present then?
I can certainly try.
Okay.
Um, okay, is it sharing?
Yes.
Okay, so I I took your last course and the first part of this is was the lesson that I made for the first course
Hmm.
and then went into new information for stuff that we did in the second course. So I'm just kind of sum up what the first half of it. Um, so I teach kindergarten and teaching mindfulness techniques to kindergartners is usually the way that I like to do things rather than teaching about mindfulness. I usually teach them ways to self-regulate. Um, and then throughout this presentation, I have resources that I use connected to YouTube, like yoga, deep breathing, body awareness, that are usually between 3 to 5 minutes to get kids in as a whole group in a very level state of mind. And then in all of our kindergarten classrooms, we have calm down corners with all kinds of resources to help students that are dysregulated self-soothe. Um, and so some of those things are like picture cards, sensory activities, breathing techniques. I have a chair that uh, takes out light for some of my sensory students, wiggle toys, all kinds. Um, so this is the new slides that go along with what we've been learning. So talking about how to talk to students in a younger age when they're escalated and then post escalation. So techniques that we use are getting low and on eye level, asking open-ended questions, keeping a calm and non-combative voice, demonstrate and practice strategies with the student either solo or as a whole group, and lots of praise are kind of the notes on that. Um, then I have like statement starters. So I use the four statements that we talked about within the group. So like having observation statements, feeling statements, need statements, and request statements. With this young age, I really like to keep it very simple. So like I see that you are having big emotions, or I notice um that you have a toy that is distracting you, or I wondered why why you are over here on the carpet instead of over here with us at group, or things like that. Feeling statements. I feel frustrated when I see you at not participating with the group or when this happens. Um, So like for example, I have students that really have a hard time expressing their emotions. So if I just say, "How are you feeling?" they don't know. So I usually start with an example of why I might be feeling a certain way. So, I didn't sleep well last night, and when that happens, I get really cranky. What about you? Did you sleep well last night? And then kind of guide the conversation that way. Need statements. I I tend to stay away from need statements unless the student reacts well to a command. So, like, I need to know why you are throwing that at me. I need to know why, or I need you to come sit down. Some students do not react well to that, especially if they're in a state of escalation. So, need statements are helpful for me to state what I'm needing, but not always necessarily great for students that if you question what they're doing, they're going to immediately escalate. So I tend to add the word please to it so it doesn't feel so commanding. So like, um, I need you to please come to the carpet. I would like you to please come to the carpet or something along those lines. So it feels a little bit more welcoming. And then request statements. Please, can you, I would like you to, but my favorite of all of these is this is here when you're ready. I'm not telling them specifically what they have to do. I'm not giving them a command. I'm just saying, hey, this is here when you're ready to help, when you're ready to come with it. And I don't put a time limit on it. And this helps with some of my bigger escalation students. And then I have conversation starters during an escalation. So, like, I noticed that you have some big feelings today. I would like to know how you are feeling. Let's breathe together. And I always demonstrate it. So, usually with a kid who is like throwing things or backing themselves into a corner, I like to stay a couple feet back. And then I start breathing and I show them, and then they tend to mimic me. Um, Without me saying, "Hey, you're breathing. Let's do this." Like, so it kind of gives them an opening to to regulate with me. And then I always like choices. So would you like to go to the break area, or would you like to use one of our tools or toys? Do you want a break or a breath? In my classroom, a break is like, hey, I need time to myself and I need to like fidget with something. A breath is I need five deep breaths and I'll be okay. And my students understand what that means. And then once a student has had their break and they are showing that they are regulated, I have a bunch of starters here. So when you're ready, this is here for you. Like I said before, would you like to work with me by yourself or with a friend so that they don't feel like they have to go right back into the work by themselves? And then I always, always, always praise. Like, I'm so proud of you for making the choice to join us. I am so proud of you for taking a break, for taking those breaths. And then I have reward systems of tickets in my classroom. So like, this is 5 tickets for breathing with us, or let them choose their prize. How many tickets do you think this is worth? Um, for coming back. And I have a student that's like, this is 2 tickets. But if they come back in from recess, that's like 12 tickets. And that's up to them. And it's funny where they put their motivation. And then I always like to say, like, I know that you did something really hard. Like, you shared big feelings. That's a hard thing to do, and you did really well. And just making sure that students still feel like they're a part of it and they have that efficacy portion of it, that they understand how we got from A to B. And that's it.
Yeah. So, I mean, a couple things for me was that the first of all, the way you took the material and adapted it to teachers of young kids was incredible, and the fact that some of the techniques don't necessarily work with the younger kids, like the need statement is something that might throw a kid off, especially if the kid is starting to escalate. And I love the way you adapted it to what you knew was the right thing. Um, and you didn't ask me, but I'm going to say this anyhow, is in I believe that you should be signing up for conferences or what and teaching this to other teachers. I thought this is great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have to say this year has been really difficult, and I'm sure a lot of you can um, relate to that, but I've had a very big behaviors this year, and so I find that these techniques get us through the day.
Yeah. And, I have to tell you, the fact that again, with Mitch, the fact that you work with young people on all of this is just, I think it's amazing. I think it's absolutely amazing. Because I know that I worked with middle schoolers and I thought, man, I struggled, I would have struggled with some of them. Just to, and I think little kids can do this. And I love that about your lesson. Yeah, loved it.
Thank you. All right, I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, and any other comments from any of you, or you can put comments into the chat.
I actually have a
I,
question.
Yeah.
okay.
Oh,
After
sorry, go
you.
ahead.
No, go, Sarah. After you.
I just have a question. How long does it take you in the beginning of the year to establish these protocols? Like, because I know like you have usually your first couple of weeks, but how long does it take to become intrinsic in your class as part of the day-to-day dialogue and the use of those
Start from day
techniques?
one. The first day of kindergarten, they're all learning is not curricular. It is learning the classroom, learning the thing. And while I'm introducing the space, introducing myself, introducing the school, we are talking about it. We are talking about feelings. And I always build it into the transitions of my day. So when I pick up my kids from recess, we always do a 5 minute mindfulness video, like either yoga or one of the ones that are on there, or there's a plethora. Um, and not a wiggle break. And I want to make that really clear is because those transitions, I want those bodies calm. I don't want them brought back up by doing like Danny Go or Cuckoo Kangaroo or any of the others that are out there. Um, and usually it takes about a week for me to build those relationships where students are comfortable talking with me one-on-one. But at that young age, they love talking about themselves. They love it. It is, they are looking for that one-on-one attention. So if they have any reason to tell you that they're having a feeling, we talk about it, especially at the beginning of the year when they have never been away from home for a whole day or they're really tired. And if I see one student or two students that are having big emotions, we talk about it as a whole class. Like, hey, how could we be feeling if we're in this situation? What is, or if I'm having a hard day, because those first few weeks are really stressful. So there is a, a chance that my students have seen me cry. And when that happens, I don't shy away from talking about those big feelings that even I as an adult might be feeling and why and how I deal with it. And then we practice. And about once a week I have a very targeted social emotional lesson that deals with conflict resolution, big emotions. And I do that once a week throughout the entire year. Does that help?
Yeah, I was just curious because I don't teach kindergarten. I teach the older elementary. And I know that for third, second, third, fourth, and fifth graders, it takes constant continuity and constant repetition. So I was
Yeah.
just really curious for the littles, how long it took for you to become part of your classroom culture right out the gates.
Yeah, and this is all like within the last, like I've been teaching for 13 years, and I think within the last 5 years, I've put a lot more focus into social emotional learning and putting it into my daily routine. And it's a night and day difference. And while yes, I'm having a tough year, that's with a couple of students, it's not with the whole class. And the way that my class deals with those big escalations is a beautiful thing. Because I feel like they can connect to those emotions and express it in a free and like non-judgmental space.
Keep going. That's awesome.
And Adriana, you had a yeah.
Yeah, thank you. As Mitch was saying, I would love you to come to my school, well, to the school where I work, and present this to the teachers. I am a special ed teacher and I work with K1. And I just feel that if the teachers replicate what you are doing, that will be awesome for the teachers, for the students, and for my job. No, really, I really
Well,
enjoy
that's
the
very sweet.
presentation.
Thank you so much.
That would be wonderful. And you two, you can directly message each other on the community. I don't know that you have each other's emails, but I could also email both of you. But I think, it might be just as easy to just message each other to starting off with on the community.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
And if
you.
you don't mind, I would like to continue to be the next one
Okay.
because I didn't do a lesson, really. I
Okay.
just want to present you, all you, and I think it could be like the complement of what you are doing. Um, I work, as I said, in the extended resource classroom with K1 students. I have 10 students in my caseload. So, and some of them, they have also academics. So talking about academics, I work pretty much one-on-one with them, but I have been creating since last school year a social group. So it is a process for me, Sarah, that you were asking how long it takes. I feel that now I am starting to see results about the things that I'm going to share with you. It has been like every single day except Wednesdays, doing the same over and over and over and over, knowing the students and I have big expectations for everybody, and I can really say that they act totally different when they come to my classroom. Even they demonstrate good manners, for example, right? So that they don't do that in the gen ed classrooms. So really, I have been trying to create a very special space for them. Um, in my classroom, I have a lot of different kind of toys, and everything is with a purpose. They come, they play, and that's the way that I teach them how to behave, how to think about emotions, and all these things. So, Mitch, I don't know if you can help me to um, la so I can show my presentation.
You're muted.
I'm sorry. If you should be able to share now, if you can't, or I also have your presentation, and
Yeah.
so I
Can you just put it in the meeting?
sure.
That would be
Now I have to
better.
find where it is.
Okay, wait a minute.
Um,
So, share. Mm. I'm sorry, I couldn't put it in the
okay,
link.
right. No,
So
I
Mitch,
put it
help
in the
me.
spreadsheet. Oh, you know something? Oh, darn it. Um, I changed the name of it, so now I have to find it again. Um, because I put your name on it.
Okay.
So you have to give me a second to find it, and then okay. All right, I found it, and now let me share my screen. Okay. Can I share it this way, or do you need me to?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that's great. So can you? Yeah, I'm going to bother you. Look,
Okay.
so this I tried to make this presentation thinking about self-control and the MI that I started to use 2 weeks ago in a way with the students. So Yeah, thank you. Next one, please. So this is just a statement about the extended resource. The goal is to help all these students to feel, to serve all students with disabilities, first in the gen ed education setting, and then with my support as a special ed teacher. Next one, please. Then what I was telling you, I create social groups for kids. So the goal for the kids is to socialize, to make connections with each other, friendships, building communities, share activities, inclusivity, positive social impact, confidence, sharing, and safe space. My social groups are around like between 3 and 5 kids. And really, you really need to believe me, no matter what any student is doing, nobody laugh, nobody make comments, nobody is mean. It is just amazing how the environment can help them to just understand each other without talking, really. Next one, please. So they come around for 30 minutes in my social group. So it's kind of 15, between 15 and 18 minutes, they play, it's playing time. So it is the time where we or they, I am just kind of observing and supporting them to interact. Like, hey, remember bubble space. Hey, remember you need to ask nicely, or you need to change the intonation of your voice. You can say the same, but in different way. So it is just this, what I do, but I literally kind of leave them to play whatever they want to play. If they want to play by themselves, if they want to play together, if they, and then at the beginning of the year, pretty much everybody's playing by themselves. Now they are playing together, they are communicating, they have a friendship. And this is really now is when it's happening. So at playing time, they communicate, it's cooperation, it's empathy, conflict solution, right? Because I want this toy, or I want a turn, he doesn't want to, like all those kind of situations. Expressing themselves, ask for help, making new friends, learning from others, sharing, listening, and coping with failure. Next one, please. Then it's time to clean up, and that is also a process, right? They are playing. Of course, they don't want to clean up. Of course, they don't want to do it, right? So at this time also, it is another teaching process without a lesson, without every day could be different, right? And every student and every group is different too. For example, for my first group, it really works when I start like, it's cleaning time. And I'm going to start counting. It's 5, 4, 3, boom, 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 boom. They start just moving around. They clean and they need to come to the carpet. And now it's time to totally calm down. We sing this song, Rise and Shine, and Shine. And the song is 1 minute and 38 seconds. The song is the same the whole year, the whole year. And then sometimes I have a student, he asked me, like, Miss Adriana, why do we need to repeat this song every single day? My brain doesn't need that information. That's not okay. So no, it is not about the song. It is about you being sitting down, following the instructions of the song for 1 minute and 38 seconds. That's your goal. And it is really that is the goal for them. It is really hard. The song is the same, it's probably 4 sentences, the song, but it's like you need to sing loud, then you need to sing whispering, then you need to sing normal voice. And all those instructions are difficult for them. So they are learning also to follow, and that's the goal for this. And after that, we check feelings. This is the feelings that they check. I have copies of this, and they just stamp their feelings, and it is amazing. And we just share, sometimes, like they stamp 4 or 5 feelings. It's just a short time, 4 minutes, so they get to share one feeling. If we have time, they can share 2 feelings. It's like, just tell me, why are you proud of yourself? Why are you happy today? Why are you tired? is something really quick, because um, in the general classroom, they also do this, right? But it is, I like to collect all this is information for me to share with parents. Uh-huh. And it is funny how different could be the groups and the kids. Last school year with my students, it was really hard for them to pick just one feeling. It was just hard. And this school year, the students, they can literally know all the feelings, and they can tell you why, um, the reasons that they are choosing those feelings. And next one, please. And it was funny that I don't remember, I don't know your name, the name of the person who presents first, but you were talking about Danny Go. I do Danny Go every single day, and they love it. I have a calendar where they need to pick, like they have turns to pick, and they need to wait. And that's another learning. It is not just about Danny Go. They need the goal for me um, for this movement break is about following whatever he is doing. Sometimes it's really hard because they want to do something different. So that's the goal. And that's the end of the social group. Next one, please. And this is part of the next one, please. This is just part of the self-control. I have this in the classroom. This is something new, is where I am trying to do the self-control with different strategies, helping them to stop really when they are having all these emotions and energy. And because the kids that I work with, those are the kids that can destroy your classroom. Those are the kids that your calm space in your room, it is not enough, right?
I
So
think we could use this in Washington, actually, this Washington, D.C., actually.
Thanks for clarifying that.
and then, like this is, and then I just have some other slides where it is the different ways for the motivational interviewing, the way that I am going to start doing this with the kids when there is a conflict, not necessarily, like in my social group, we are happy, right? Really, like it is a moment that they really enjoy. My students come to my class when they have big emotions. It is a space where they can have a break any time of the day. Um, so these are, like, as you can remember, the motivational interviews, it is like a process, like 8 steps. And I was sharing the other day with Mitch that with the little kids, it's just hard. But I just wanted to put it like in different slides for you to be there. And these are, like some examples, the way that we can start talking with them. But it is really a process. And that's it.
I think also you should be presenting this to schools as well, you
Thank
know.
you.
And these questions to ask kids to reflect on how they're feeling and how they're acting and how they want to act and how they think they can get there. These are really good questions.
And they work, really. They work. It's, you need to be patient, as all we know. We need to know our kids, we need to know our students. But I really believe that this is going to work in benefit of the students. And thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? I see there's good great comments in the chat too. You should take a look at the chat.
Hi, my group can go next.
Okay, this is Delilah.
Yes,
Okay.
I worked with Kevin and Carly.
Okay, great. And let me make you co-host.
Perfect. Kevin is actually going to be the one sharing.
Oh, well, I didn't make him co-host, so
That's okay.
so let me make him co-host.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Okay.
Okay, so I know a few weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, you asked me to make a song because I am music, and I did do that.
Wow.
Carly and
Oh,
Delilah.
sorry. You know something? I have to stop sharing. I'm so sorry. Okay, go
Oh, you're
ahead.
good. Carly and Delilah, we all work at the same school. We work in a middle school. We're all permanent subs on music. Delilah's English and Carly's art. So we're not all music, but they still wanted to take part in doing this. And for the past 2 days, I've been putting together this song that we made from scratch. We wrote the lyrics, and then I played the piano, and then we each sang on it. And then I'll put the lyrics on the screen and then play it in the background so you guys can read it. Let me do.
And you put in a couple links. Are either of those links recordings of this?
Yeah, one's the recording and one is the lyric sheet, so you can
Amazing.
actually know what we're saying.
Okay.
Can you see the lyrics on the?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, this is it. Let me know if you can hear it.
And I don't know if you shared the sound, so let's see if we can hear
Oh,
it.
let me see.
Yeah, I think you have to unshare and then share and then.
Okay.
Well, let's try it. Maybe you did share sound. So let's see.
Sometimes we don't see eye to eye. We argue, shout, we wonder why. But if we stop and take a breath, we'll find a way to fix this mess. Let's talk it out, find a solution. We can fix it, no confusion. We are together, we'll be strong. Conflict doesn't last for long. First, we observe, look around. What's happening here? What's going down? Next, we orient. How did it start? How can we tell? Sometimes problems come our way with friends or classmates every day. We need a way to make things right. Let's be mature instead of fight. Let's talk it out, find a solution. We can fix it, no confusion. Work together, we'll be strong. Conflict doesn't last for long. When we decide to choose what's right, what's the best way to end the fight? Then we act, take a step or two. We can make peace, me and you. We don't have to win or lose. There's always something we can do. No need for anger, fear, or blame. We can make it all okay. Let's talk it out, find a solution. We can fix it, no confusion. We work together, we'll be strong. Conflict doesn't last for long. That brings us to the end. We've learned how to be a friend. Now you know and now you see. Thanks for learning OODA loops with me.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow, the OODA loop song.
Yeah.
What
That was
amazing.
absolutely insanely dope.
Thank you.
Thanks. We had a lot of fun making it.
That was great. Thanks for sharing, you guys.
Love, love,
really
love, love,
enjoyed
loved it.
making it.
Yeah, you do you mind if I share that on YouTube or Facebook or I think that is so cool.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fun.
Thank you. I'm kind of speechless because it was so good. Like you hit elements of conflict resolution, you hit the elements of OODA. Just it was really amazing,
You could use that as an advertisement for the courses, Mitch.
right? Okay, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
That was fabulous.
I'll volunteer to sacrifice to go next.
Okay, that's
Thank you.
Elizabeth.
All of that.
Okay.
It's going to be terrible.
I'm sure it is wonderful and amazing.
I have such anxiety about this, so I'm just going to throw that out there for you.
So are you able to share?
I'm not seeing anything yet.
No.
Do you,
So I thought I added you. Let me see. Yeah, you're a co-host, so you should be able to share. Or
okay.
I can't. I'm not seeing it on the spreadsheet, but it's probably there, right?
I put it on like at 3:30, so it should be there.
Okay.
Humans.
Oh yes, there it is. Okay, I
Okay.
do see it. So I can pull it up if you want, and then I can share it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Um, and what I'll do is I'll also um, make it larger. There's probably other ways of doing this, but okay. Can you see it?
I can.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to preface this with I have an advantage because I teach a medical assisting class to high school students. So
Hmm.
I have actual units and lessons that I can fold these new techniques into. So what I did was the other thing I wanted to add is I just got my new book, and so I'm about 2 weeks ahead of my students. So this is why I chose a lesson plan so that I can use this to teach the nervous system, which is upcoming. Um, and then, so I'm using it also in a communication unit. So I made a lesson plan for that. So I embedded the MI and the nonviolent communication into the communication unit as a lesson because as MAs, I thought this would be a great technique to use as a de-escalation um, type of interview because we have some, patients that get very upset for a lot of valid reasons. So, and obviously not on it would be population correct as far as the dialogue goes. It wouldn't be necessarily always to children. But this is going to be part of the nervous system unit, and I have larger class blocks. So you'll see like a lot of up and down. So this would be the fourth lesson in the unit, and they would have already had the anatomy and physiology of the nervous system. And at this point, we would have gone over some stages of development for the different populations. So on this day, I was imagining that we would deep dive into the adolescent brain and the limbic system, and then the acute versus chronic stress, and then also maybe some of the peer pressure kind of piece and how all of that. I thought it would be very powerful for them to understand that developmentally this is where they're at. It's not a character flaw. It's difficult and they're not well defined. And so I just thought it would be kind of a powerful way of looking at some of the pressures they're under. So I have an entry task and the exit task is there strangely as well. But I'm actually going to use this in a couple of weeks. So it's a lot. So you'll see that. So the lesson would be broken down into two sections. And the first part, if you scroll back up just a tick,
Hmm.
there we go. The first part of the lecture, I always review from previous days. And so this would be the fourth day, possibly the third day. I don't know about this book as yet. I haven't taught out of it. But the concept from the previous day. So this would be the last day that we hit the anatomy and physiology because the following day they're going to dissect a sheep brain. So you'll see a lot of back to like the anatomy piece in the lesson plan. But the first part of the lesson would be a lot of review and then discussion of the developmental stages of brain development, focusing on their adolescent brain, and then showing a video of an adult brain versus an adolescent brain, that sort of comparison. And then introduce acute versus chronic stress and the physiological effects. So this is very timely. So today I actually started talking about the limbic brain because we had a special speaker come in, and it was impromptu. And both of my classes are very, very quiet. They have no problem sitting in an awkward silence when people are looking. Like they think all questions are rhetorical, kind of. So
Hmm.
it's really awkward. And so he was asking them questions, and they just won't reply. And then a couple people would try to reply, and it was a Navy recruiter, so it was kind of rough around the edges. He was coming in to try to tell them about scholarship opportunities and that sort of thing. So at the end of that, I was talking about the limbic brain. So I said to one girl, I was like, so when he asked you a question, you thought you were wrong and your face turned red. How did you feel? Right. And so
Hmm.
that conversation led into the limbic brain. I said, immediately, did you freeze or what happened? Like you couldn't think, right? So I started introducing that, but we talk about stress from the
Hmm.
very beginning of the school year. So at the end of the kind of the stage of development, um, we get up and have an activity where they're going to discuss, what's acute stress. And it's an interactive, the four corners, but not actually four corners kind of situation, just to break up the lecture.
Hmm.
And then we're going to come back, and if you'll scroll up just a tick, the second part of that, and I have big class times, is then managing group pressure and collective illusion. So there's a lot built into that. And I thought I might have to break up the collective illusion to the following day
Hmm.
as an extension, but the group pressure piece is what I thought we could definitely tackle today. They love group discussion. They
That's
love,
interesting. I hate answering in class, but they love group discussion, huh?
well, they really like, because they
Hmm.
like talking about things when they're trying to figure themselves out.
Hmm.
When they're trying to dissect, like, why did that happen? Why did she say that? Why do I feel like that? Like like their personal traumas and their emotions and their bodies, they're very interested in trying to figure out. So that's why there's so much conversation, because I have classes that are totally, they're with it as far as that goes. So that's why that keeps coming
Hmm.
back. But it's a good place too, when they have these discussions where they are learning some empathy for each other as well. So the lecture after the activity, we try to tackle the group pressure and the collective illusion possibly the next day. So the next group activity. So my classes are 2.5 hour long. So this is
Wow.
why I'm breaking this up so much. I'm giving some lecture and then trying to do an activity, try to refocus to the goals of the day and that sort of thing. So I have an activity back to the anatomy and then the limbic brain. And this is because when they dissect the sheep brain, they have to label parts, sections of that actual brain. So they really have to know that. And then my idea with the OODA loops, and this is, I'm going to have to like sneak this in the next couple of units so that it's more of a review. But my idea is that I really teach the OODA loops in my communication lesson at the beginning of the year, because I start with that,
Hmm.
and then just continue to use it as a communication technique, and understanding the pressure that they're under and how they react and that sort of thing. And so this specifically would be this discussing their decision-making processes in stressful and personal and professional situations. So at the end of this lesson plan, some of the actual information I started to cobble together, because I don't think that it's in the book. And some of this will be handouts, some of this will be like PowerPoint slides and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And then if it just is too dense, then the collective illusion, I could follow into after the brain dissection.
Hmm.
So this is kind of, once I introduce the OODA loops and the MI and the nonviolent communication techniques, that piece is something I can carry over into most of my units, because there's always a communication element and dealing with patients. So these are students that are going to go into clinicals and apprenticeships and that sort of thing. So I think it would be pretty powerful as far as their prepping them for that. And the rest after, if you keep scrolling, it's literally, I was starting to put together like the actual information that's gonna, I
Ah,
stuck a bunch of prompts together, in case the ones that I had didn't work. Some of the interventions for the common strategies for negative peer pressure.
hmm,
Like, so that type of thing is not in the book.
right.
My my new book. So this would be part of the new material that they would be reading. But it goes on into the different types of like peer pressure
Ah,
and
and where would I'm just looking on the left? Where would peer pressure be on the left under
let's see. The
social group dynamics? Is that
so it's closer. Yes, it would be in. So that looks like it's a substance use and on down. Those are like negative scenarios where peer pressure. So if you scroll
ah?
down to you see the substance use, it
Yep.
should be
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
So those are all. So that would be some like of the type of the handouts that I was
Hmm.
thinking that
Hmm.
they would use, and then they have good examples as well that they could use as like discussion
Hmm.
techniques, but it does come back, it circles back to like the brain development and this, essentially when with group and peer pressure,
Hmm.
that is essentially stress. It's
Right.
it's a stress for reaction. So it
Hmm.
all kind of ties back into acute stress versus chronic stress and helps them label and give name to,
Hmm.
what they're actually dealing with. So there's a lot in that. So that's why, I mean, this is the what I plan on teaching in probably about 3 weeks.
I'd love to find out, how it goes because what you've done, which is, really cool, is first of all, you folded it into the academics that you're teaching anyhow, but then you've applied the academics and this content to the things that the kids are really interested in and made it not just lecture, but, uh, you know, uh, small group interaction projects that they're doing, things they have to think about, and so it should be something that really ignites them.
Yeah. I think that just the discussion, it's a, it's a, I think the feedback that they're allowed to give is just a supreme dopamine hit because they're very connected to
Hmm.
that because it's what they're experiencing. So yeah, hopefully it goes well. I'm not sure if it's too dense. That was my concern. I was messing around with it today. I was like, this is a lot. This is a
Yeah, well,
lot.
you know, you'll find out, right? If it's
Yeah,
if it's too much, then you'll probably take some out, and then next year when you try it again, it'll be that much better, right?
hopefully, yes.
Yeah, and they're going to love it anyhow, whatever you cover, because it's right the things that they're really concerned with, and the issues they face, the risk-taking behavior, the clothing and fashion trends, the social media and body, all these things are things that they're wondering about and understanding that that's just part of their brain development and it's their hormones and their limbic system reacting a certain way. I think it's very powerful for them.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Okay, then I'm going to stop the share. Good. Um,
I'd
Great.
like to go next if that's okay.
Yeah, Sarah. Okay. So let me find you on the left. Um, there you are.
Let me know when I'm ready to share.
Okay. Well, you should get a message. Oops. No, did I? Sorry. I think I pressed the wrong thing. I think I turned off your video by accident instead of making you co-host. So sorry.
Yes, it's okay.
Uh, I I just clicked. But now you should be co-host, and you should be able to reactivate your video.
Able to see?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me just move everybody's faces out of the way so I can see.
Hmm.
So again, I'm a elementary science teacher. So I teach second through fifth grade in two separate buildings in my district. And I do a lot of design projects. So, what I took from all of this is working through conflict during group projects, because a lot of times, I mean, even as adults, we work through group projects and we always end up with these conflicts. So, um, having to having them have a concrete thing that they can go back to or posters. I plan on actually making like little desk charts, like flip charts for my lab table stations and laminating them. So that way, if they're doing group work, they could have it accessible to them. So that's what I'm going to do for next year. Um, but starting off a basic lesson, have you experienced conflict? And asking these questions, have you ever worked with a group or disagreed with someone in a group? Maybe you didn't agree on what to draw or how to do something, what happened, and having like a little think, pair, share within small groups around the lab, and then discussing it as a whole. And then afterwards, bringing it back to a whole group instruction. Why do conflicts happen? Understanding the basis of what could promote or prompt a conflict to actually happen, different ideas, feeling frustrated, wanting something, but not being able to get it. Um, and I had going over that idea of, well, conflicts happen, but in the event of a conflict, what can we do to resolve this and move forward and be productive as a group? Um, so moving forward, and how can a conflict actually affect the members that are in a group? So if you do have these conflicts, people might be saying, you're not listening to me, you're being mean to me and very judgmental. I guess my ideas don't matter. And that would really shut the entire project down rather than trying to move forward and build on each other and promote each other's ideas as being important and a puzzle piece to the end result. Um, how could the group, again, be affected by the conflicts? People might say that they're tired, they're angry, they're sad, exhausted, anxious, nervous, just kind of putting names to those emotions that you might be feeling when you are going through a conflict and feeling shut down in those moments. And then this is where I would bring in the OODA loops. We could work this out by using OODA loops, observing, orienting. I added to the D, instead of decide, I feel like discuss is another D word that would be more appropriate for this, especially for elementary. Because deciding to me, when I read it, is like, oh, we need to make a decision, a definite endpoint, a result that is one answer.
Hmm.
So I wrote slash decide because I feel like a discussion is more appropriate when you're talking about a group project rather than just deciding on one.
I think it's a
Um,
wonderful change. Yeah.
it's not as linear feeling
Hmm.
for me.
Hmm.
And then act, do on what you discussed or decided as a whole group.
Hmm.
Um, and then I kind of made this slide. What does it look like? I don't really like this slide that I made. I think I'd probably do more visuals when I print it out for my class. But just having these, what does an OODA loop look like? What does this process look like? These 5 steps: staying calm, taking breaths, using a calm voice, respecting everybody's ideas and their designs. Everybody has a valuable piece to bring to the table to create an ultimate end result. Listening to each other, using I statements, allowing to your feelings and allowing your design ideas to be heard without judgment, and take turn listening and making sure everybody has time to be heard as well as share theirs and speak together. Um, and then this is just a slide that kind of sums it all up. And then what I would do at the end, or in the next lab session, because I only see them twice a cycle for 40 minutes, is do a little bit of role play, like almost like a fishbowl activity first, and then break out into small groups. So I would probably do it over the course of 2 lab sessions, one at the end as like a fishbowl activity to sum up what we did, and then an opening activity for the next lab session where they actually split into groups. I give them scenarios and they have to identify what the conflict could be and then discuss how they could use the OODA loops as well as I statements to work through the conflict to come to a common end and be successful as a group ultimately at the end.
Yeah, it really sets them for success in working through projects because uh, you've brought them through like the most many of the most common problems, and they're probably already familiar with them. So having brought them through that, showing how our normal reactions end up escalating those issues rather than solving those issues, and then what to replace that with, and then letting them know that it's kind of a loop because they're going to be trying things, um, and seeing how they worked, and then possibly trying other things, and then give them a chance to practice and rehearse it, so that when it really comes up, it's kind of in their muscle memory. And,
Yeah, and I'm actually really excited because I really do plan on using this. So I'm going to probably try to start at the because I see them they cycle up with me second to
mhm,
third to fourth to fifth. So
mhm,
I think what I'm going to do is attempt to have my second graders because they're almost third grade kind of present this to them and do like a small design project with them just to kind of get them geared towards it for third grade
mhm.
and then use it as an opener for third grade and then cycle it up through each and have it become part of their vocabulary and um just have it be like what Jane said, like she starts it from the beginning of the year, she keeps it in her words and keeps it in whatever she's speaking about daily and all of her routines. I would
Mhm.
like it to be like that, and I do plan on making like almost like a little tabletop flip chart for them to pop out and just put on their lab stations when we're actually doing design projects, so they can access it and it's not something they have to hold in their brain um, all the time. So thank
Yeah,
you. I
yeah.
mean, thank you for this course. I really, it's very applicable and I'm actually really excited to use this because it brings a whole new lens to what
Mm.
I do daily. So thank you.
No, oh, thank you very much. And I have a question for Tammy, because Tammy, you've put on STEM and STEAM conferences. And do you think that a session on how to get kids prepared to work together in groups would be something that a STEM or STEAM conference would want?
So I'm going to just answer with yes. And Mitch, I know you know this background of mine. Before I became a teacher, I worked for NASA. I think it would have been helpful at NASA. I'm not, every industry that I've ever walked into, and education I know is a little bit wonky compared to industry, in a few ways. But yeah, I think, and especially around AI, because I gave a speech to middle schoolers about AI, and you still had kids getting really like, AI is terrible. And I'm thinking, that's not your opinion. That we're now I'm listening to parents, which totally legitimate, and of course I'm not gonna say that to these kids. But I think whenever we are trying to implement anything in any way, this course would be helpful.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Sarah.
I can go next
Okay.
if the
This is Allison.
yeah.
Okay. So now I have to there. And
Mine
hopefully
kind of goes along with Sarah's, but
good.
not as in depth. Um
And you should be able to share now.
yes. So a little bit of background on me. I do interventions in a very small school. I do our Title I and LAP. I also do our multilingual learners and our high cap kids. So I have small groups all day, every day, in K6. This was my infographic from last mind shifting course on mindfulness and the five sages, just because I know that there's only a handful of us from that course in here. Um, so it went over the five sages. So my kids already know about these. We don't have a lot of time in our groups. We have maybe 20-25 minutes each time. So I don't have a lot of time for social emotional learning. But this was something that I had peppered in. Um, so my poster kind of matches that same color scheme and, font and whatever to go along with it. Um, I have an area of my classroom where students can individually go to calm down if they're escalated. But I have recently moved two desks together for like a community kind of regulation zone so that if two kids are upset with each other, they can have a space to be and maybe work through those things. Nobody's used it yet, but I think they don't really know how to work through those things together, especially my younger kids. So we have conferences coming up and state testing coming up. So a lot of our work isn't going to be academic in nature anyway, just because I don't want them to be super fatigued and to be more stressed out than they already will be. So I can sneak this in, and that can be our learning for that day. Is what is conflict and how are the different ways that we can work it out? Um, because I think that's the biggest thing I took away from this course, and what kind of impacted me the most is learning about these different styles. I have never heard of these before, at least altogether. I've heard of the words separately, but not in this kind of way. So I think it would be really important for kids to know that there are different ways of solving the same problem, and they all look different and have different outcomes. I saw a lot of these different types of graphs that had a line along the bottom that said like how important the relationship is to you and how much you want to win on the other axis. I didn't want to include those things just because I felt like you can avoid a problem but still really care about the person. Um, or you can, you can collaborate with someone too, but also they're not super important in your life. So I
Hmm.
didn't want to limit it that way, but um, my kids really enjoyed the little brain icons from these ones. So I wanted something visual that they could, kind of tie it to of like, oh yeah, compromising. There's pieces of this puzzle that are missing so that it could connect to this other person. And these people are fighting, and this person obviously doesn't want anything to do with the conflict, and just something visual that kids can see and kind of grasp onto. But yeah,
Yeah, and I could see having gone through this, having that this is a poster in your classroom. So when you see a conflict, it's like, well, let's take a look at the poster, and you're
right.
anchoring back to what you'd already covered. I love this poster.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna put this uh under this one,
Hmm.
but also print another smaller copy in the like my dual de-escalation area, my
Hmm.
new one,
Hmm.
so that kids can kind of practice this, and I can reference it when I go over and check on them and have a conversation with two kids at once instead of one, in a private space, but we're still looping back to what we had talked to as like a full small group, if
Hmm.
that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, and this would, and I'm going to say this probably about every one of you, but this would be another case where, you know, s- teachers around the country, educators around the country could really use a poster like this. And so, making this poster available to other teachers and talking about it with other teachers at conferences, that you'd be doing a real service to everybody. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
I
good
can present
comments.
it.
Yeah, okay, good. Um, so who was talking?
Jared.
Jared. Okay.
Yep.
So uh now it's hard to find people on this long list that I have on the left of my screen. So um Jared, I don't see you. Oh, yeah, there you are. Okay. And you
Like,
moved.
no, Mitch, he's really here.
Yes,
Yep.
no, I know he's here. It's just uh there. And now you can present.
Okay. So let me share here, and I want to include sound. So I did something a little different. Oh, does it not let me share sound?
Uh really?
Oh, I got it. Oh, hold on. I might have to select. I got to select the screen first. Okay. So I did something a little different. I created a podcast for basically my colleagues to learn about this in a quick, short, informative format.
Hmm.
So I used something called Google Notebook LM, which is a brand new, well,
Right, I've heard
relatively,
of it. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, AI program. So I've been kind of playing around with that, doing some things, and I'm hoping my district eventually opens it up for me to use with students. But in the meantime, I thought this might be a great opportunity for me to kind of play around with that. And like I said, podcasts are really, I mean, I'm kind of into podcasts now. I use them in my spare time. I use them when I drive. I learn about all kinds of stuff. So I thought maybe if I could get something that's short and sweet and informative, but also effective to share with my colleagues a little bit about the course. And maybe that'll, spur them to take in the course. I don't know. That's a possibility. But because I think there's some really powerful messages here that they could really use. And the big one for me working with high school students is, dealing with the conflict that we come across. One of the big ones is cell phone use. I don't know what the future holds with cell phones, but I've more than once put myself in a power struggle situation with a student about cell phones, and it always turns out bad. At least it always has turned out bad. I think now I have some more tools in my toolbox to handle these in a better way. So I created in Notebook LM a scenario where I wrote a script, and again, I used AI to help me do all this, but I wrote a script about a conflict between a science teacher and a student over a cell phone being used, and then I created a second script where they used nonviolent communication to deal with the teacher did to deal with the student and the issue. I also put some resources into it about what nonviolent communication is, a little bit about sage mind and limbic mode, and like I said, Notebook LM creates a
Hmm.
podcast for me. It's about 12 minutes long. I'm just going to play maybe a couple minutes of it, but it's all AI generated. It sounds just like two people talking like your traditional podcast. So here's the kind of beginning of it. Let me know if I have to turn it up or anything.
Ever catch yourself getting like super frustrated when someone just zones out mid-conversation?
Oh, yeah.
You know that feeling of like, hello, Earth 2, are you even listening?
Totally.
It's like our brains have this switch,
Yeah, yeah.
It flips from engaged to totally checked out.
Uh-huh.
And today we're diving into the science behind those moments and exploring a communication technique
Okay.
that can help us, well, get back on the same wavelength.
I like it.
So we've got some fascinating source material to unpack.
Sounds good.
Excerpts from nonviolent communication in the classroom
Okay.
and an analysis from Sage Mode
Interesting.
that breaks down the psychology of conflict and resolution.
Okay.
It all kind of centers around two classroom scenarios,
Uh-huh.
both involving a student on their phone,
Okay.
but with like wildly different outcomes.
Right.
One teacher reacts,
Yeah.
the other resolves,
Mm-hmm.
and the difference is all in how they communicate.
What's fascinating is that these scenarios highlight something we all experience. The amygdala hijack.
The what?
The amygdala hijack.
Oh, yeah.
It's that moment, when your emotions, specifically fear or anger,
Okay.
they just take over.
Uh-huh.
And your rational brain just goes offline. Think fight, flight, or freeze mode.
Okay, so picture this.
All right.
High school science class.
Yeah.
Mr. Harris is talking about photosynthesis,
Uh-huh.
and Liam is totally engrossed in his phone.
In the first scenario, Mr. Harris reacts in a way many of us might.
Okay.
What do you think you're doing, Liam?
Oh, I can see it now.
He is coming from a place of frustration, and his language reflects that.
Right. And Liam, well, being a teenager, doesn't exactly diffuse the situation.
True.
He retorts with a classic, chill. It's not a big deal.
And this is where things escalate quickly.
Oh, boy.
Mr. Harris's limbic system, it's triggered,
Uh-huh.
and he responds with, if you can't show respect.
Ooh.
Liam, also in fight or flight mode, fires back with, you've got no idea, you can't control me.
Oh, so not exactly a productive exchange.
Not really.
Mr. Harris is trying to assert control.
Yeah.
Liam is feeling cornered and defiant.
Right.
And the whole thing ends with Liam storming out.
Basically.
It's like watching two runaway trains collide.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'll stop right there. So you kind of heard the first scenario, and again, it's all 12 minutes long, and anybody can listen to it. I put it on my YouTube, and the link is in the
spreadsheet.
Yeah, the spreadsheet that Mitch has, and you can listen to the whole thing. So that's kind of the first one. They talk a little bit about it, and then they revisit the same story, except under the guise of nonviolent communication. And how could this change the outcome? The goal, of course, is not to have a conflict where the student storms out that ends in things like referrals and parent phone calls, but something that's a little bit more cooperative for the entire group, including the teacher, to handle that situation and feel good at the end of the day, not to alienate the student, not to create the conflict. So it's just something different. To me, it's a nice bite-sized way of thinking about the material. Like I said, I can probably share this with my colleagues, give them a little taste of what I learned, and if you go ahead to the second scenario where Mr. Harris deals with Liam using nonviolent communication, a great example for what they could use in their class. And I think that might improve some of the student-teacher, conflicts and situations that at least I've been part of, and probably a lot of my colleagues are part of. So, thank you.
No, so Tammy, isn't it cheating to use AI?
And if you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough.
Okay, we got it.
Said it
I,
to every kid that walked through my classroom.
what a
You
brilliant
have to
use.
find a way. I loved it. I loved every second of that.
Yeah.
And I was messing around with AI too, and I just put a whole book chapter in to see what podcast they would spit out, and the
Hmm.
voices are the same as Jared.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
think Notebook LM only has a couple voices right now, but I think with time it'll might maybe get more diverse.
Yeah, very cool.
yeah, that's wonderful. And it's kind of it's entertaining. And also I think people can actually get what the difference is between, just normal reactive conversation that we tend to use and, planned with either motivational interviewing or nonviolent communication. So yeah, really gets the point across. So thank you.
Would anyone mind if I go next? Mine also had a script.
Okay. So I think I found you here
I
and
don't know if I'm going to be able to share my screen. I have an
okay.
outdoor computer. I can put in the chat the slides I
Okay.
sent.
It's in the spreadsheet, right?
It is in the spreadsheet.
Okay, so I should be able to find it. Yes, uh so let's see. Um okay, I got it and I'll share it then. And this is it, right?
Should say mindful, yes. So I tried to adapt two different lessons I've used in the past for this. Sometimes when students are just like a little bit overwhelmed, I'll try to use a mindfulness Monday. And I thought students could kind of take a moment and reflect on their own interactions in school and how they can redirect and retrain their reactions or their thinking. So I tried to make a full 40-minute lesson. So on the next slide is a TED Ed video about stress and how chronic stress affects your brain. I love TED Ed videos, and students always kind of light up when there's a media playing.
Hmm.
And then if we can go to the next slide. And I thought students could write about a time when they were stressed. What was the situation? How did they cope? And did you cope in a healthy way? And when students are sharing out, I would try to bring out like, okay, do you think it was good that, you snapped at your mom or at a teacher or a friend or, just kind of reactions that maybe weren't ideal, that weren't coming from, a place of anger, but more from like a place of stress and just not being able to think. And then on the next slide, I was going to have them get into a group. Oh, this is just describe a time when you got in a fight with someone, just in case the prompt on slide 3 did not get the reactions I was hoping for. Sometimes I have to manipulate a little bit further, where is a fight that happened? What actions did you take? What actions could you have taken? And on the next slide, I have students get into their groups. I already have them in groups, so this would just kind of be like, okay, now go into your groups, share your scenarios, and then write a screenplay using your fighting scenario. You can use one of yours or a few and write a screenplay where someone is in a situation where they're stressed or they're not thinking clearly and they react in a way that is counterproductive or escalates a situation. And they should be assigning each other roles where each person has, a role and lines, and they can have a narrator who comes out and says, okay, and now entering the scene, etc. And then now, yes, thank you. Next slide. They should be ready to present. And then this conclusion has to have, like the end of their screenplay has to have an easy activity that doesn't take very long that can de-escalate a situation. So in this situation, blank can use this breathing technique to help them react better in the future. And that's pretty much my lesson. It's a little bit more not maybe so direct. I'm hearing other people's lessons, and maybe I wish I used more direct communication about how to not be in limbic brain or limbic mode and to go into sage mode. But I don't know. I like the idea of having students act out a scenario where something like this can happen. I think you're on mute, Mitch.
Yep, sorry. It is in creation pretty much the highest form of learning. And so
Yep.
that's what you're using is, they're they'll remember it a lot more because they're building it themselves and they're discussing it and finding it out. So that's what real science is, right? Is trying things out. So yeah, this is you know it to me it really incorporates so many different aspects of the way the brain learns. And we think we have to tell everybody everything, but allowing people to find it out, and you're there to kind of prompt them. Like you
Right.
had you prompted them with about conflict, but just in case they didn't come up with a real enough conflict to be able to use, you then you had a backup, and you're there to give them the backup so that in their groups they really do find methods to de-stress a situation, and they could probably come up with some really good ones.
That was the
So
hope.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so other comments? And what age group? Yeah, that's right, rising juniors. So these are like young high school students. But I
Yeah.
could see this. I personally think this would work in middle school as well. You know,
And you'd be surprised, like, 'cause I teach teenagers, they'll be very uh hesitant, like, oh, I'm too cool for this. But once you kind of get them going, and I said I adapted this from two lessons. One is just a mindfulness Monday, and the other is I'll do this sometimes. I'll have them act out scenarios with like labor unions, right? Or this will kind of be the culminating project. So they'll take an assessment, they'll take an exam because it is a Regents class, but then the next day will be this, culminating project where they have to, write a script between a labor union and their bosses, or a woman fighting for suffrage, or so that's kind of the two together.
wonderful. Yeah, thank you very much. And again, just like this is also a lesson that if you get a chance to present, I think this would be very valuable. Okay, so who wants a chance to go next?
I can present next.
Okay, it's Laura.
Mhm.
Okay, okay, and so you should be able to present now.
Okay.
And it's
Is it
waiting. There it goes. Okay, we got it.
okay? Alrighty. So I also teach kindergarten, and so I wrote a um 5-day kind of unit to go through kind of teaching them about really the basic forms of, you know, the brain. Um, so it's broken down into days. Today we actually did the Meet Your Brain unit. And so they talked about sage brain and lizard brain and what each one does. We listened to a book and it talked about the different parts of the brain and how it processed the day. And then they kind of look at this cartoon and we talked about the different pieces. And I had them do a quick little brain break to activate all the different parts of their brain. And then, sorry, it's in our district formatting for lesson planning. Day 2, understanding fight, flight, and freeze. And so actually getting to really look at that lizard brain and understanding when they're reacting to something versus when they're thinking through it. And talking about what that limbic brain really does. And when they're responding, what they're feeling, and all those different components to that in a very kid-friendly way. And then there's a little video that talks a little bit more about those responses. And then talking about why we need that lizard brain, because sometimes we need it to protect us. So it's not a bad thing. And then the next day, kind of more of that sage brain and calming strategies. And so then we teach zones of regulation at our school. And so I related it into the zones, fight, flight, and freeze. And then we also have calm down centers in all of our classrooms. And so just some tools and things, and actually walking them through the classroom and really applying what they're seeing and what they're using, what they're learning, and how we apply all of their tools and strategies. My calming corner is called Turtle Cove, and so that's the language I used in my slides. And then day 4, practicing empathy. I really wanted them to relate feelings into caring, and having a caring heart. And so then there's a read aloud for the way that I feel, identifying emotions and how we make them, what they look like, and actually using body cues and facial cues to read other people's emotions. A little video on understanding empathy. And then the sage brain, because this is where we want them living as much as we can. We introduced the OODA loops and really talking about decision making and processing conflict in a positive and healthy way. That's our green zone, and they understand the zones as kind of where we learn. And then being able to talk and have some discussions over kind of what they've learned and how to problem solve. And then I liked this infographic for them to understand the OODA loop, and being able to kind of give them a scenario and how would they process through it. And that is it.
You know, as I'm thinking about John Boyd, and who's the one who came up with the OODA loop, and he, he taught in the Air Force, and everything that he did was so intricate. And what you've done is you've now made it comprehensible to kindergartners, which is pretty amazing.
My kids were really excited by it today, and they loved that they were learning about their brain. And it seemed like this really far off concept, but it was relatable and it was cute. And so they had a lot of fun with it today and making comments about when they saw lizard brains all day.
Really? Wow.
It was pretty
That made
cute.
some impression on them.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I think this is another lesson that I just think if more teachers had lessons like this, it would make it so much easier for them to help kids, self-regulate, which is what you're doing with your kindergartners. So yeah, so thank you. Thank you for being willing to share, and thank you for a wonderful lesson. Okay. Any other comments? I think you actually got a lot of comments in the chat also. People seem to really enjoy the lesson. Okay, who wants to share next? Because it's fun.
I don't mind
going. Oh.
Okay. Okay, we had 2. So I was
It doesn't matter.
okay. Okay, so Rodora, you're up there now. So I'm going to, and I think it was Tammy also.
Hi, Tammy.
Okay.
I'll go next. Don't worry.
Okay.
Thank you. Can you open it for me?
Oh, sure. Let me.
I'm afraid if I click on something, I might accidentally take myself out.
Okay, then let me.
I'm really notorious for clicking on stuff and not being able to get back in.
Okay, let's see if I can do this. And okay,
Mine's not as fancy. It doesn't have a lot of graphics. In fact, I didn't use graphics. I just used colors. But anyway, I love doing this with my fourth grade kids. This is really applicable to where we're at right now. And we've been working on this the last couple of weeks. I had a lot of kids that are having problems either on the playground or PE. Not so much in the classroom, but those two places. And so it was really funny. I told the kids, I said, I can't believe it. In our social studies, we have an old school social studies book, and literally conflict. There was like one page of conflict resolution that popped up last week. I thought, oh, that's perfect. Just about fell over. So anyway, I just kind of bounced off of that, and I just kind of rolled with it. So.
And what grade?
Fourth.
Fourth grade.
Mm-hmm. And so literally, I've been doing this with my kids. So in fact, we have class meetings that are student led at the end of the day. And we've been presenting our posters the last 2-3 days. And so students made their own scenarios, and it was really fun. I was telling my principal about it today. At the end of the day, it was really cool because the things that we think are problems are not necessarily their problems. So I just let them roll with it. The only caveat I told them was it had to be school related. So it could be on the bus, it could be on the playground, it could be in the classroom, anywhere that related to school. So that's kind of interesting. Like I said, their ideas and mine were not necessarily the same, but it was pretty cool. So they make their own. And this was just my introduction, the rules, not rules, but the parameters around what I wanted them to pick. And learning partners, I kind of jigsawed them. We use number cards in our classroom a lot to make everybody work with everybody. I've never had such a small class. I only have 10 kids. And they see I'm in a really rural area right now. So they told me that's a big class for where I'm at. So I told them, I said, well, I'm used to 20 and up. So I've discovered it's actually harder to work with small classes than it is big classes because they have a lot of history with each other. And in a really tiny community, it's even harder because everybody knows everybody. So a lot of issues come from outside, not necessarily within. So I number their cards, and I number them like 1 to 1, 2 to 2, and I just pass them out. So they get to whoever they get, and they have to work with everybody. So it's kind of fun. So they had, like I said, we had a list of things that they kind of choose from, and they had to take sides or roles in the situation and try to see it from the other person's point of view. So that's fun. I cannot believe how well these fourth graders can do that. Trying to see it from the other person's side. Let's see. And so they had to figure out a way to solve the problem. The first solution was easy, right? Plan A. But then I threw a kind of a curveball and said, well, what are you going to do if that doesn't work? So then plan B, and then some of them went to plan C. So that was really fun. And they could not just go to the teacher for the answer. And then we did presentations. Like I said, we're actually in the middle of this right now. This is like day 2. People have been doing their presentations. So mine's nothing fancy, but it's very practical. And then we do a lot of slideshows and fun stuff like that. So like I said, my next steps, what would you do before a conflict? And trying to help them come up. We've been talking about things, like I said, PE has been a really big issue. Like even yesterday, they were very upset. Some of them were extremely upset because they didn't get on the team that they wanted to be on. And I mean, they were really giving the PE teacher a really tough time. So we went, what are we going to do about that before a conflict, and then during the conflict, and then after the conflict? So a lot of conflict resolution. So anyways, nothing fancy, but I just can't get over how well this is actually working.
No, because the kids are creating and they're interacting with each other. They're solving the problems that matter to them.
I mean,
that's what's real learning. Could you so now you kind of tickled my interest when you said that what's a problem to them is not necessarily what we would have chosen as problems yeah, without like revealing uh, information that shouldn't be revealed, but could you, what were some of the problems?
One of the ones that I thought was interesting that actually it was just applicable to where we're at right now. It doesn't really even have anything to school. I just couldn't believe they came up with that one. So right a few days ago, we were in a fire danger, and our school is pretty close to the train track. And
Hmm.
they had some past history with, I guess, with the train tracks sparking a fire. And so they're like, what are we going to do to protect our school? It literally had nothing. Yeah, I didn't even realize that they were thinking about that. So they were like, well, we can't move the school. So what are we going to do? So if some of it was not even actually class related, but so they had to think about how to kind of protect their school. So that was different. And the other one was on the bus and conflict about where you're going to sit on the bus. And so that one was the one they did today. So two of my kiddos said, okay, what are you going to do? Okay, well, you can wait. What they thought of was wait till the other kids get off and then you can sit in that seat. And I thought, okay, that's different.
Huh?
I hadn't thought of that.
Hmm.
And so, and then in PE, we talked about, well, you can learn from other kids because they were upset that maybe the kids that weren't the best players were not on their team. And so we
Right.
talked about, well, we all learn strengths and skills if we kind of work with kiddos that maybe aren't as good as we are right now in basketball, and that we learn from teaching other people. So
You
that's
might you
where
might want to remind them of the U.S. hockey team that kicked the crap out of the Russians.
Oh,
They were an
yes,
amateur. They were
they
an amateur
were.
team.
That's right.
It,
Oh,
and
yes.
it's about team building and skill. Oh, anyway, sorry, that just popped in my
That's
mind.
good. I'll have to let them talk about that tomorrow. That's really good.
Also, there's a robotics team of underdogs. I want to say they were from New Mexico,
Oh,
and they went up. It was a high school team, and they went up against like these really elite. And I'm not trying to be rude, all white teams from like Harvard or you know what I mean, from really elite, and they beat them. And I
oh,
just I and they made movies out of this. It just makes me smile. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
that's wonderful. No, I'll have to mention that because that's really where our biggest issues have been PE and playground because
Hmm.
they feel like they're being left out, not getting a chance to play, and then kind of coming up with ways where the teacher doesn't need to get in there and get the whole game interrupted. How can you solve it? So I talked to mine today. I said, well, okay, you've got a couple choices. You can either get in there and play anyway, or we talked about what the expectation was for our class, and I said if you're in there with another class and they refuse to let you play, so you always have the option of walking off. You don't have to stay there. You can go play somewhere else. So I guess it worked because I didn't
Wow.
hear anything today. So, but yeah, the conflict resolution has been a really big one in our building.
And we should be teaching conflict resolution, because it happens all the time, right? So that's
And
wonderful.
and I think it's kind of scary in some ways too. It's even as a teacher to put it out there because you really don't know what you're going to get.
Hmm.
You just really don't. So I'm kind of out of my comfort zone too, going, okay, it's okay, just see what we get. So thank you.
No,
That's it.
thank you. Thank you. What marvelous lesson. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
And then I think Tammy, you said you'd be willing to
Yeah,
go
I
now?
can go
Okay.
next.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay? I got
Yes.
earbuds in. Okay. And I'm sorry, I'm on my phone. I don't have like a
Ah,
PowerPoint. Can you pull mine up?
okay.
It should be on the spreadsheet.
Probably can. And let me make it a little bit larger and then share the screen.
Thank you. And I know I'm kindergarten, but I don't tend to use a lot of cute PowerPoints because I don't use them in my class. So, or very often anyway. So I just have a written script. I looked at it from the perspective of I work with 5-year-olds and how could I kind of introduce these concepts of empathy and self-regulation so that, we're building the foundation for them to use the OODA loop when they really have those skills. So I looked at this as a lesson that could be done in pre-K or K, and it's actually kind of like a mini unit. I have three days worth of activities that I would do to kind of introduce the concepts, but then also reinforce and practice them with the children. So on the first day, I would read a book called Leonardo the Terrible Monster by Mo Willems, who just has some very fun picture books. And basically, this is about a monster who is really bad at scaring people. And then he thinks he scared this little boy, but the little boy actually is upset about something completely different. And he, says, well, my brother knocked my blocks over and this, that, and the other. And the monster feels bad and decides that instead of being a bad monster, he wants to be a good friend to the kid. So after we read that story, we would have a discussion talking about things like, what did Leonardo learn about Sam when he listened to him? And that's that he was feeling bad about all those things that happened. How did that make Leonardo, who's the monster, feel? And that made him sad. He wanted to help. And then he decided to be a good friend. And then I would end it by kind of summarizing it for the kids that Sam was having a hard time with all of his big feelings. We all get big feelings, sometimes feelings that can make us mad or sad. And let's practice a way to help our bodies calm down before or when we're having those big feelings. And then I would play, for this, I would use a video because I like the visual model of some sort of deep breathing exercise. I did include a link on my document for, I believe that's a pufferfish one. But they have a lot of turtle breathing, they have bear breathing, balloon breathing. But just something that really gets the kids to focus on taking long, slow breaths to help calm their bodies down. So that would be the first day activity. And then I'd, loop back in the next day reading a different book called The Recess Queen. And this is just basically about a recess bully who, everything's hers. She gets first shot at everything. And a new kid moves in and takes, basically doesn't listen to that rule and plays with all the stuff. And in the end, they end up becoming friends and doing things together. So to start that out, we would read it. We would talk about the deep breathing exercises, practice those a little bit, again, just to loop in what we learned yesterday. And then talk about what was the problem with how Jean acted on the playground and get them to identify some of the, kind of bullying type things that she was doing. Asking how that made other children feel. Because I think, at this age, getting them to see their feelings and other children's feelings is really important for that perspective. And then saying they could do deep breathing exercises and calm themselves down, but would that help fix the problem? And getting them to recognize, no, that's one piece of it, but there's still more that we need to do to resolve the conflict with the child. So, saying you're right, we need to be calm to solve problems. So the deep breathing is good, but what do we need to do next? And then they might come up with things like talk to Jean, make friends with them like Katie Sue did. And then reinforcing that, yes, with a calm mind, we can start to solve the problems. And then just putting in kind of the idea that when we have a problem, we need to stop, breathe, and think. And there's some good stop and think songs. And again, music is always good at this age because they really remember those things and they'll sing them back to you. So again, I included a link for a stop and think music video that they could play. And then on the third day, I would kind of try to pull it all together with talking about that we've talked about solving problems with friends. Ask kids, what are the 3 steps that we take to stop, think, and breathe, or breathe and think, excuse me. Practicing stopping and breathing. And then we need to think and saying that sometimes we need to think about how the other person feels to help out. And to do that, I would introduce the Would You Rather game, and that pink box is a graphic that introduces that. So it's, not anything that's conflict related, but just an exercise for the kids to see that not everybody thinks the same way. We don't all like the same things. We don't all have the same opinions. So, that comes from a PowerPoint with a whole slide deck of things like, would you rather pet a leopard or pet a tiger? And a fun way that I like to do that in class is I turn on music, and when it stops, whatever partner you're standing next to is the person you share with, and then they take turns sharing with each other. And then after the game, talking about that, did you always pick the same thing as your partner? Emphasizing that we all feel different ways about things and it's okay. It's important for us to remember that just because you're feeling one way doesn't mean your friend is. If you don't agree about something, you can stop, breathe, and think about how they may be feeling. And then you can try to figure it out together. And then I would wrap it up by reading another Mo Willems book called A Big Guy Took My Ball. And that one is about a playground misunderstanding, which really, as I've heard a couple other people say, would tie it into things that we are having issues with daily at school now that the weather's getting nice again here in New York. But in that book, Piggy is heartbroken when a large man takes the ball. Gerald comes in to try and help. And in the end, they summarize that assumptions really could lead to conflict when you make assumptions about what somebody is doing or, kind of their intent. So, and then just like a note for ongoing to continue practicing the breathing and encouraging that stop, breathe, and think when it happens in the moment. Also in class, modeling for the students, doing that. If something comes up and I need to work through it, modeling that exercise so that they can see it happen.
Yeah, so
And that was that.
you hit the way kids learn, because we learn via stories, and you have stories. We learn by doing experiential learning. It's all experiential learning here, and and bringing in music. And we like to have like these set algorithms. So, or that's like the phrase, step. Um,
Oh, stop,
sorry,
breathe, think.
stop,
Yeah.
rethink, right? Stop, rethink. It's like that's easy. That's easy to remember, and you
Mm-hmm.
can always then anchor back to that when in the future when something happens. It's like, okay, what are the three steps? And then boom, stop, rethink.
Yeah.
Okay, did we stop? Um, let's breathe. And then now that we're a little bit calmer, what do we want to? What are some other ways that we can accomplish this? So, um, it's just like it's so perfect for young kids to just to teach them self-regulation and make it easier for the teacher to co-regulate them.
Right. Thank you.
Well done.
Thanks.
And there's some comments there also. Yeah, really well done. And then I would say we have time for one more, if one more person would be willing to share.
I can go, Mitch.
Oh, great. Okay, Christy.
It's Christy.
Okay, so let me find. Um, oh, there you are. Okay, and so hopefully you can now share.
Okay, let me try. Okay, I think I'm sharing.
Yep.
Okay, so, oops, my dog is happy to see me. I actually, while people were doing theirs, I had originally, I just have to minimize this because whoops, sorry, my dog is. I meant to go like this because I wanted to show the one I had previously done and I can't see it because the thing's at the top of the screen.
Oh,
So this
right.
is the one I used this last time, but I changed it just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I also like the OODA loop a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
I just said, here's the OODA loop. And this time I added a lot more videos in there because, people like different ways to learn. So I thought if I added some videos in there, it might spice things up. And of course, why should you use OODA loop? What is it? And then I went into observe, orient, decide, act, and how to apply it. And I added a couple videos in there again. And then I just like diagrams and pictures. And if I would have put this on display mode, it would have looked better. And then another video about the OODA loop. And then I created this while we were talking. I was listening though. Everyone's was good. But I also created this because I felt like I didn't do enough. Oh, there's my dog again. So I did mind shifting and I really liked this picture because, it just shows like the mind shifting and then like what happens when we disagree. And then, those things. And then resourceful versus stressed thinking. I like that image as well. And then when coping strategies fail, so you're running away from some monster or screaming at someone. And then shifting your mindset, how it can help you and what you can do. And then conflict resolution, where everybody looks like they're getting along real well. And then another teaching mind shifting in the classroom. They look like adults, but still a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And then this quote was really good. I like this a lot.
Oh,
Collaboration
cool.
isn't about winning, it's about understanding. So.
And you just did that in like an hour or so? Wow.
Yeah, or less. This one was the one that I did. The other one was from one of the last sessions. But yeah, I just did this one. So hopefully you like it.
No, both of them. The one about adding the videos and the more information about OODA loops. And what age group are you thinking?
I figured it honestly could be for anyone, maybe not kindergarten, unless you were to really change it a little bit, but anybody could understand this, or you could change it just a little
Mhm.
bit to fit it. But like I teach high schoolers, so that was, my game plan. You could even use it for like work or like
I was thinking,
or
yeah.
college or anything else like that. I think higher education, but anything would work.
Well, adults, I think, it would be either one of these would be good PD.
Yeah, it really would be. I think I really love this too. Like it just really changes the way your mind is thinking. And like it literally is a mind shift. And that's why like I just loved this picture when I found it because it
Mhm.
just really the gears are turning and now you're thinking and now you're changing. So
Mhm.
all right, that's all I
That's
have.
wonderful.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So you were in the last class, so you got a lot more information about OODA loops than what we covered in this class, and so I think that people from this group, if you wanted to teach OODA loops to high school kids or to other teachers, that lesson on OODA loops really does dive into it, and with the added information, the added videos, it should really clarify it. So um, that should be very usable. And you also, I think you could take that on the road, you know, and the different conferences, uh, have sessions in the conferences so people can start to understand this. That would be great.
Thanks, Mitch.
Well, thank you. And so, it's 8:55 on the East Coast. I guess it's 5:55 um, on the West Coast, and so we're pretty much done then. So I will of course stay on. So if people have questions and again, if it turns out that there's things that you don't understand and you want to reach out and you want a one-on-one session, just reach out to me and I'm happy to talk to you or brainstorm an issue. So thank you all for participating in the class. Thank you all for being such wonderful people, and I hope we find ways to stay in touch.
Been
And
awesome. And we are still responding on that your site, Mitch,
yes,
so we can stay connected. You guys are all amazing. Thank you for everything you do for kids.
Hey, Mitch, this isn't about the class, but Andrea asked me a question and said, how did my high school get its name? So I
Yeah,
teach.
I'm
okay,
here. Hi.
Okay, okay. I was just going to tell you because I figured it would be a lot to type out
yeah.
and I didn't want to ignore you. And I actually had to look it up too because I live in Pennsylvania, but I teach right over the border in New York State. And I've heard varying stories, but it says that during the Revolutionary War in September 1779, General John Sullivan and his troops passed through the area as part of the Sullivan-Clinton expedition. Their mission was to weaken the Iroquois Confederacy, which had allied with the British. After a long and exhausting campaign, the soldiers' pack horses became weak and died. The troops removed and cleaned the horses' skulls, leaving them along the trail as they continued their march. And there's more about it, but I'm pretty sure that's the story I had heard. So they
Oh
left the
my
Wow.
horses'
goodness.
skulls there, and it's called Horseheads.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, that is wow. So
Yeah.
your high
So
school is
sorry
named
about the
after.
history lesson, but I wanted to tell you. So
That's
Thank
fascinating.
you. We
yeah.
That
lived in
is
Chicago. We live in Seattle now, but
Oh,
for my birthday, we went to this place called Starved Rock, and I was like, "Oh, that's such an interesting name." Everybody was like, "You have to go there." We go, we find out that the Indians were stuck up on this really high rock, and then the white people, like, they would try to lower their pails to get water and stuff, and they would cut their pails to not give them water.
oh,
Anyway, so they all starved on that rock, and it was
Hmm.
like the most depressing birthday ever.
where's that at, Andrea?
In Chicago, when we lived in
Okay.
Chicago.
I
Yeah.
might have to go. My daughter was in the Navy, so she was real close to Chicago when she
Oh, yeah.
was at boot camp, but I didn't hear of that place. And now my daughter actually lives in Port Orchard in like real close
Oh,
to Seattle.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
I
yeah.
know
That's
where.
like an
Yep.
hour from here. But we're
Yeah,
on
so
like the west side, the Puget Sound area,
got
you
you.
know. So they're
Yeah.
just like an hour away from us. That's so cool. She's
It is
here.
because like I live on the East Coast, so it's almost 9 o'clock for me in bedtime.
Yeah.
But my daughter lives on the West Coast because she was in the Navy and now her fiance is stationed in Bremerton, so she's over
Okay.
there. So
Oh, it's awesome. That
yeah,
is such cool history. You're all
yeah,
over.
it really is. I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to check out that place. So you said
Okay.
Starved Rock?
Yeah.
Okay, got
Yeah.
it. All right, sorry to hijack, Mitch.
No, no,
No,
thank
We're
you.
not
thank you.
hijacking.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank you
guys
and
so
Tammy so
much.
much.
Have
Yeah.
a great evening.
Yeah, you guys too. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. This class has been so helpful, like in daily life and everything, just family, kids, teenagers, everything. So thank
Well,
you.
that's what we want to hear.
That's exactly. Thank you. Thank you for
Oh,
saying
you
that.
guys.
I think
Take
I've used it like every day on my teenager, so
Smart move.
it was like, let's get this together. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. I just wanted to say the same thing. Thank you guys. It was a pleasure taking these courses with you.
Well, it was wonderful having
When
you,
is,
Jane.
when are you teaching another one? When's the next one you're teaching?
So I'm teaching the what we used to call mind shifting 2, which is uh I get now I'm forgetting the name of it, but that starts May 22nd.
Okay.
And then I'm teaching the resilient brain one, or we're teaching the resilient brain one. Sorry. April 22nd is the next one, and then May 20th is the one after that.
Okay. Are you sending us links to it or we have to go find it?
So are you in New York or are you in
I'm in Washington.
Washington? So if they're on PD Enroller. So if you go to
Okay.
PD Enroller and type in mind shifting, you'll see the
Yeah.
classes because
Okay.
they're both up.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. No, thank you for asking.
Is
Bye.
that similar for New York?
For New York, they're on the New York State Teacher Center.
So the
Right?
frontline
The front line.
teachers.
I'm sorry, right? The front line. And so you type in mind shifting and they come up.
Oh, I actually had a question.
Yep.
So, I'm mirroring what everybody said. This class was really insightful, and I took a lot from it for my personal life, me being a daughter and a mom and a teacher and all the capacities of life. And so I really thank you for letting us kind of have a piece of this and to take it and make it our own. If I wanted to share this
Hmm.
with my school or with my colleagues as like a professional development or like a second Monday meeting
Hmm.
course, are there things that I am not allowed to share? Like, I don't know
You
what is the,
so my goal is for 5 million people to be able to understand these techniques. So anything that you can do to get us closer to that, just do. You can the videos of the classrooms, the slides, the readings, anything.
because I'd like to take that end lesson project that the one that I created, I'd like
Yep,
to take that and because it really is applicable to not just science, it could be applicable to
yep,
any
yep.
discipline.
Absolutely.
And with I feel like it's something that would be extremely useful for classroom teachers as
Yes,
well
yep.
to navigate classroom projects. So is the again, I am allowed to share that lesson that I created and
Not
tweak it?
only the lesson that you created, but you're allowed to use any of the lessons that any teacher has created for this class. And you're
Okay.
allowed to share anything that we created for this class.
Okay, that's great. I
Exactly.
didn't know if there was like you know what I mean? I didn't want
Yep,
to
yep. No,
overstep.
thank you for asking.
Okay, that's
But
great. No, that's wonderful. And I definitely I hope to take more of these. This was really a wonderful
oh,
class. So
that'd be wonderful. Thanks.
thank you so much, both of you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Wonderful meeting you.
Yes, yes, it is.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, maybe it's now my turn.
Sure.
Hi.
Hi.
The same as everybody. Thank you so much. As I wrote you about the class,
Hmm.
I am moving, like I am in a very particular personal situation right now. My brain is not 100%, unfortunately. But I really appreciate everything that you gave us in this course. Really, I really want to understand more in order to apply all these wonderful techniques with my kids, especially with my kids, but also with adults. I think I am pretty good with kids. My my conflict is really with adults, with my colleagues, with other teachers. I am starting. I started this school year in a new school, and it has been really, really hard. So I think all these techniques will help me. But I need time. I need time, and I need to process that. So that's one thing, and thank you so much, both. The other piece is, I don't know what happened, but I went through all, like in each session with all the steps, and then at the end you say, like, click, you are done with this section, you are done with this section. And all the reflections, and sometimes I was able to do it in the web. But for example, today, the reflection piece was in a different link.
Really? So I have you having completed all the reflections.
Okay, because you told
Okay.
me like it wasn't there. Okay, perfect.
Right.
I just
So they
wanted to
weren't there.
clarify, like, I have been working really
Right.
hard.
But
Okay.
I'm looking now, and you've completed all the reflections.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much, and see you soon.
See you soon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.